Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic, and I want to talk about kind of what happens in that middle area where you have a goal or you have a desire that you're manifesting, but it still hasn't shown up in your physical reality, right? It still hasn't quite come to fruition yet. And so then you have conversations with friends and family and just other people around this thing that you're working on or that you're in the process of manifesting, and kind of, wondering what to say to these people. And on top of that, sometimes you feel like these conversations, right, can kind of bring up doubts and insecurity and kind of even ruin your vibe. Like, you're, because I think these conversations, they can kind of fall into different categories, right? Like there's people, like let's say it's like a relationship goal or a business goal that you're working on, right? And so somebody might ask you how your relationship or how your business is going. And they might just ask it from a genuine place of curiosity or, just wanting to know. Or, you have your critics and your naysayers, and then you just have your flat out haters. and and so all of these, if you're kind of in a place where you're still a little bit doubtful or a little bit insecure, it can be easy to let these conversations really throw you off course and throw you into a place of doubt and of insecurity. And in the early days, I used to try to avoid these types of conversations at all cost. And because when I would have them, even if it was just like an innocent question, like somebody just asking me like, oh, how's, such and such going? Like, I would just feel like crap when I gave my response. Like just like a complete failure. and and but and then and especially when it comes to the people that are critics and the people that are flat out haters. But one thing I've come to recognize is when it comes to the people in these second and third categories, and that it's never personal, right? Like they're just reflecting their own experiences. And so somebody that's a critic, like somebody that's always kind of bringing up why it won't work, it's likely because they've had a similar experience in their own life where they did that relationship or that business didn't work out for them, right? And so they're just giving you advice from their own experience. And so they're giving you the advice from a place of cynicism and a place of skepticism, and maybe even trying to protect you. But it's all coming from their own perspective, right? It has nothing to do with you because they can't possibly know your entire experience. And then when it comes to the haters, it's the same thing, especially like internet trolls. And because, like, why would you even go out of your way to make a hateful or make a mean comment to a flat out stranger unless you were in a miserable place in your life? And so again, they're just reflecting their own experiences. Or or sometimes people just like to troll, for fun. And I think but again, that's just kind of coming from their own experiences, right? It's not anything personally to do with you. So I think that's the first thing to recognize. But the biggest thing that I realized was instead of trying to avoid these conversations, to really see them as a helpful gauge of where I was at and where I was at with my assumptions. And so, first of all, you've probably heard that expression, like to keep your goals to yourself or to keep your desires to yourself, to kind of, that it's just between you and God, and to kind of keep this hermetic seal around them, which I think is certainly great advice. And especially kind of in the early days where you're still developing that confidence in yourself, right? And you don't want to be shouting it out to the whole world. And so that's always the approach that I've taken. But even if you don't tell people your specific desires, like these kind of conversations on a general level are still going to come up, right? Like, let's say you're an actor and you don't necessarily tell people the specific things that you're trying to manifest within the world of acting, but people know that you're an actor, and so conversations might come up about roles that you've gotten or roles that you're auditioning for. And so that's just kind of one example. And so I've learned to kind of see if I get reactive during these conversations, or I get triggered during these conversations, and or if the mere thought of just talking about my business, for instance, just answering somebody's innocent question of how my business is doing, if that makes me feel like complete crap and like a complete failure, then that's just an indicator of how deeply I've identified with that assumption, right? And so that's just kind of telling me, it's not telling me that, oh, this is never going to work out for me. It's just telling me, okay, this is a place where I need to go work on this assumption a little bit more in order to ground myself more deeply in that conviction, and ground myself more deeply in that that success that I am cultivating for myself. And what I've been doing recently, and especially like on days when my confidence was low, or on days where I was just kind of throwing a pity party, is just doing rampages and just doing these really kind of ridiculous, outrageous things like, like I'm a triple, quadruple billionaire, and just really being silly with it and being playful with it, and just kind of getting back into that energy, and almost kind of like, I would describe it as like a rapper energy, right? Where they just kind of have this bold swagger, and they're wearing all that ridiculous jewelry, and just like over the top, but just like in a really fun, really playful way, just to kind of get back into the energy, the whole spirit of it, and remind you not to take yourself so seriously. And so I think that's one part of it, right? And then also looking at it as an opportunity. And so if somebody so if somebody says something negative, for instance, and I feel really, bad, really crappy about it, then I see that as an opportunity to ground myself more deeply in the assumption that I am getting that desire, or that I have that desire. And almost kind of like going back to the whole thing of swagger, almost kind of like the swagger and energy, like I'll show them. Or, when they see how outrageously successful I become, like they're going to be sorry. So, and this has definitely really helped me, and just having that confidence and having that conviction, and also recognizing that people that have known us for a long time, like childhood friends and our family, like it's going to take them a while in most cases to really kind of catch up to this new version of ourselves and this new identity that we've assumed for ourselves. So just like it can take a while, I think, for us to sometimes, not in every case, right? But in sometimes there can be like a bit of a lag before, as we're grounding ourselves in these assumptions and assuming our new identity, it can take a while sometimes for us to see the physical evidence in our reality. And in the same way, it can take a while for other people in our reality, like our longtime friends and our family, to see this and recognize this new version of ourselves. And so not to let these people get you down, or not to get like angry at them, or not to get impatient with them, and just to have like grace with them, and also to have grace with yourself during this whole process. And recently my mom made a comment to me that in the past would have just really upset me and really set me over the edge. But this time when she said it, I just smiled, and I smiled both inward on the inside and on the outside, because I knew that the situation in question, that it was already a done deal. And I just had absolute conviction and absolute knowing that it was working out exactly as I intended. Like I was already living in the end. And so her comment did absolutely nothing to faze me. And so that to me was like a huge victory. And just being in that state of just complete unshakable peace. And in the same way, we see people that are in the spotlight a lot, right? Like celebrities and people that are very, at least in kind of according to societal standards, they're very successful individuals. And these people, they get criticized all the time and they get judged and attacked constantly. But I think in most cases, they've developed this mindset where they're going to put a shield around themselves and they're not going to let it get to them. And on top of that, they developed this inner conviction and and the results speak for themselves. And like they're super hugely successful at whatever it is that they're doing. And so there would be no reason for them to let other people bring them down. And it's the same thing with you. There's no reason to let other people bring them down. And so instead you can see them and even see the trolls and the haters as just being your allies. And seeing every comment as just an opportunity to ground more deeply in this new assumption, and most importantly, to ground yourself more deeply in who you truly are as this unlimited, eternal being made of pure love and light, and where nothing phases you, and just in this space of unshakable peace, and the peace that surpasses all understanding. So that's what I want to leave you with today. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.